Hello everybody and welcome to my review of volume number 3 of my youth romantic comedy Is Wrong as I Expected. This one written by Wataru, Watari, and published by Yen On in English. The main story of this one has to do with the service club members Yukino and Hachiman trying to repair their relationship with Yui Yuigahama. Of course, that sort of happened at the end of volume number 2. If you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, no spoilers. Let's just say they need to fix some stuff. That becomes the overarching story and pretty much the pushing motivation through the various parts of the novel. But of course, this book goes all over the place. We see our characters at a regional pet show. We see our characters out at the mall shopping. We see our characters playing a strip card game at school. And you're going to be like, how does all that work and tie in and fit? Well, because this series is about people living their lives. It struck me that as I was reading this, I thought to myself, this is like the Monogatari of school life. It really is about characters who are very smart, saying smart things to each other. I mean, it's so much so that this book has, how many pages does it have? It has like 10 pages of notes at the back, just to tell you sort of like all the inside jokes and stuff and pop culture references and everything else that Hachiman and other characters throw out throughout the book. For this volume, the one thing that I kind of really liked about it was that with Yui kind of out of the picture, with Yugahama sort of doing her own thing for parts of the book, we have Yukino and Hachiman together, and it isn't like that typical we're sitting alone in the classroom waiting for someone to be forced on us or us to be forced on someone else. It is them actually doing stuff together, actually making a plan and executing it together. And through that, we see a lot more of their character. With Yukino in particular, we start, I'd say, getting a better idea of who she is, why she is the way she is. We meet one of her family members at one point in this book, which, based on what happens there, I think that goes a long way to sort of help explain why Yukino is the way she is, why she lives on her own, why there seems to be this tension with her family. So we get a lot of development of her in this series so far, and it really kind of, this book, the way it ends, sort of sets it up that that's going to be, I think, a much bigger plot point as we go forward. So we get this really nice sort of interaction with those characters that usually there's at least a third or fourth or fifth or sixth wheel involved in all of this. So it was nice to me to see these two characters kind of get along, particularly because they're the two characters that are so uncomfortable with typical social situations that to see them kind of muddle through things alone and together, it was a lot of fun to me. And I enjoyed being able to see these characters functioning socially outside of school. We haven't seen as much of that. Like, more of it's been watching them solve problems at school, and when they've gotten together outside of school, a lot of that had to do with them still working on someone's problem. So in this one, we have them just being social with each other. We have them out and about and doing things and living their lives. And it goes a long way to develop the characters. It goes a long way to making the book feel kind of fun and a little bit different. And especially because you're seeing, like, the comedy of these characters trying to figure their way through things that most of us see as like a typical normal day, like I ran into the mall to grab something. We also get to see a little bit more about sort of the motivations, I would say, about their teacher and why she wants the service club to succeed. We see a bit of her outside of the school as well that I think goes a long way to sort of explain why she wants these kids to get themselves together. We also start to see little buds of growing affection and these relationships that are expanding. And I like that the pace of it isn't rushed. At the same time, I don't want it to be dragged out forever. The other thing I don't want to see dragged out forever is Hachiman himself. The character shows so much awareness about others and such ignorance about himself. And I understand that that's part of his problem, and it makes him an interesting character and quite sort of multidimensional in that way. But I would like to see him to start to grow beyond that. I would like to see him to start and accept his role now that he is with others, and to see him stop sort of throwing up roadblocks. And, you know, like at one point he starts calling Yugahama a hoe. And I mean, in volume number 1, when it seemed like maybe that's what she was, that was maybe one thing. But when you see now we're volume number 3, and like you've spent this time together and you should have an idea of who she is as a person, I didn't really like that aspect of it. It doesn't happen often. It's only in sort of one part, but I was like really, we're going back to this? The other thing too is that the whole like Hachiman's obsession over Totsuka, the beautiful boy, it just seems like it's a little much now. Okay, it was funny initially, and once in a while it's kind of funny, but it's getting a little over the top, especially when you know that Hachiman's not going to become gay. At least that I guess it's not impossible, but I wouldn't say it's probable given the series and the typical progression of light novels. Actually, that might be kind of interesting and a fun little twist if he did. You know, that might work out kind of well. I personally think that it's all just projection, that Hachiman's too afraid to allow himself to see girls that way because of the hurt and the uncertainty with girls, but that he's projecting those things now on Totsuka because he sees him as being safe, because Hachiman's like, I'm a dude and I'm not into being with dudes, so this is never going to be that kind of a relationship, which obviously he seems very intimidated and frightened of. And, you know, in typical fashion, we learn of all these little sort of psychological traumas that he has endured. So all in all, it is another good volume. Again, this is really like the only purely slice of life type series that we have, so it always feels really different to read this series, and it's kind of refreshing and fun just to hang out with these characters and know that there's not going to be a monster all of a sudden, that really it's just them trying to navigate relationships, which, you know, I think we all kind of struggle with at time to time. So once again, good volume, strong volume, the odd little bump in the road for me on this one. And I do hope that we start to see some even more growth and expansion of these characters, maybe step that up a little bit of a notch. But otherwise, very strong volume, really enjoyed it, and I'll be looking forward to reading volume number 4. So those are my thoughts on volume number 3 of My Youth Romantic Comedy Is Wrong As I Expected. My next review is going to be on volume number 9 of Is It Wrong to Try to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? This is one of my favorite series, and I pretty much never fail to feel impressed by these books when I read them, so that'll be my next review. So if you're new to the channel and you love light novels, you should consider subscribing. I do 2 to 3 reviews every single week, and I also do a weekly countdown of the top 10 selling light novels in Japan. Thank you all for joining me in this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye for now.